Hi and welcome back to Project Marlin. This is another one of our Should I Do a Project series. You see I'm out in the wild at the moment. So this one's about skills and what skills do you need to do a project. And this primarily is about a mechanical project on a vehicle or an engine or something like that. The reason I'm stating that is because obviously if you're doing an electronics project or a building project, it's a different thing, whole different thing, different skills. Now, what skills do you need to get yourself a project and get going on it? All honesty, probably none. You can learn those skills as you go along. Makes life harder. Certain projects I would suggest that you don't want to take them on if you haven't already got some skills. I mean, let's face it, if you buy a small stationary engine, I can't think of an American make that I know particularly well to know actually how complicated they are. But in the UK, buy a stationary engine, buy yourself a Lister D, D-type. Nice and simple. Parts are readily available, loads of them out there, loads of people got them, really helpful community. You don't need anything. You don't need, you need tools, but you can go out and buy tools. You don't need any skills, you'll learn them as you go along. There's a couple of really good repair restoration manuals out there for them. You can just crack on. Big projects, something like the Marlin, if you haven't done mechanics or a project before, I would probably suggest not to do something like that as your first thing. There was, and this isn't aimed as a reply to a comment because I've already replied to it. It was suggested in one of my videos that I don't have the talent to do the Marlin. And that's fine. That's, people can pick up whatever they want from these videos. And if that's your opinion, you're entirely welcome to it. I don't agree with you, which is why I've got the Marlin. But that's just the way it is. People disagree. Now, as far as skills go, I have an NVQ level 3 in plant maintenance, which is a qualification rather than a skill. The old joke is NVQ stands for not very qualified, and I sort of agree with that because I know people that have got them and I wouldn't trust them to tie their shoelaces, but then I know other people that are very, very good. I never went to college. I got a formal qualification because to do something for one of my previous jobs, there was a limitation saying you had to have a minimum qualification. And basically we got the assessor in who was doing our apprentice at the time. Excuse me. He looked at what I was doing and the job cards that I'd done and chatted to my boss and my colleagues, and basically because we could prove the standard of the work I was doing and how complicated the jobs were I was doing, I just got a level 3 certificate in the post. Not quite as simple as that. We had to write up some things and bits and pieces, but that was mainly it. The guy actually said really I should have got a higher level, but he couldn't issue anything higher. But I got what I needed to do the job, to go on to this other contract within the company, and that's why I got my qualification, because I basically talked my way into a job when I was probably 20, so 20 years ago, and they decided I was enthusiastic and they'd give me a chance, and it turned out I was good at the job, which is quite nice. And I've been headhunted a few times, and I've had some really quite interesting jobs over the years. And I've worked on some really interesting kit. So, and I'll tell you about some of the stuff I've worked on in the past. The skills, things I'm good at. I'm good at taking things apart and putting them back together again. Excuse me one moment. Oi, come on. she wants to go off into the next field. So it's just started raining as well. So I'm good at taking things apart. Not quite so good at putting them back together again. Like once they're apart, that's fine. I enjoy that bit. But no, I put things back together again. I'm good at fault diagnosis. So sometimes I stick my head up my own backside and I just can't get my head past that the problem is actually what it is, and I get overexcited. When I was younger, I diagnosed an engine failure, which turned out to be a blocked fuel pipe. Since then, I've diagnosed blocked fuel filters that somebody else has diagnosed as an engine failure. So we all do. We all do it. These things happen. The interesting side of it is you learn from these things. It's hard if you've never seen something before. It's not impossible to diagnose it, but it is harder to diagnose than things you've seen. If you recognise symptoms, you know what it is. I might actually pause this video and run back to the workshop because it's starting to get really wet. Well, it's quite nice. We'll see how it goes. So I'm good at that. I'm good with vehicle electrics. I'm good with electrics, to be honest. Although previous job, one of the things I did was I did design work, or some design specification work, and I built some safety control systems for test equipment for a company that I worked for. And that wasn't what I was employed to do. They needed someone to do it. There was no one available. They asked me to have a go at it, and I did it. I did it well. And I got asked to do some more after that. I made work for myself. Now, pretty good with hydraulics. Air is something I've never really dealt with on a huge scale. A little bit, but not massively. So on the Marlin, the air is interesting. Something I'm not good at, body work. My welding looks like all the pigeons from Trafalgar Square have just flown over. It's not good. It's something I need to learn, something that I've got to get better at, and I've just bought myself a decent welder to practice with and get better. And once I've practiced, we'll start welding some plates in. So that's quite an important one that I need to get better. The other thing I'm not good at paint work. I can paint something with a brush or a roller. Never really tried with a spray gun. It's not great, really. Filler and body work, not so. It's strange. I can put a bolt in that I can't see into a hole I can't see, but I find it very difficult to get things perfectly in line, and maybe it's patience is part of the problem there. But I'm going to pause this and I'll see you back at the workshop. Right, I've got to remember where I'm up to now. It's proper wet, getting wet out there. So these skills, I've got these skills. I've got ones that I've got to work on. I've got some that I'm probably never going to be a lot good at. But my very first project that I did on my own, I didn't have those skills, or very few. So my dad worked as a mechanic when he was younger, and had things to tinker with. And I love my dad. However, he won't agree, but he's not the most patient person. He's not the best teacher out there if he's struggling to be patient. He can be patient with other people, but when I was a kid, I think I was a rather irritating child, and he struggled to be patient with me sometimes. So I didn't do a huge amount of mechanical things with him. He wanted me to be a mechanic. He wanted me to go to college and be a mechanic. Sorry, I'm trying to get rid of a bit of dirt off the lens there. And I didn't. I wanted to be a farmer. So I left school, came and worked, funnily enough, on this farm here for a couple of years, and then eventually I went off, did other things. But what really pushed me to have a go, and what made me become a mechanic in the end, was I had a car. It was a Ford Sierra XR 4x4. So for those of you not from the UK, if you're in America, a Merca XR4 Ti, which is a 1980s car, is basically a Ford Sierra. We didn't get that body kit or that engine from the Ford Ti in the UK, but we did get a whole range of Ford Sierras. So it was like a 1.3 litre 3-door Mark 1 big square headlights, all the way up to the RS 500 touring car, which is absolutely iconic, goes for a fortune these days. They did a 4-door Sapphire Cosworth. You could get a 4-door saloon from I think 1.6 upwards, and they did a 5-door hatchback. Now the XR4i, which was the British version of the 40i, came with a 2.8 litre V6 engine in it and rear wheel drive. They then changed that to, they brought out a 5-door version that was 4-wheel drive with the same engine, and in the late 80s they upgraded the engine from a 2.8 mechanical injection to a 2.9 electronic fuel injection. And when they went to the Mark II version of the car, which was a lot nicer, smoother looking, in my opinion. Other people disagree, but I do like the Mark II 5-doors. I've had several of them. At the time, I was a boy racer, not sure what the European or whatever it was. Basically, we were a nuisance. We would drive around with noisy exhaust and irritate all the locals, and we thought we were gods to get to driving. Obviously, I was, the others weren't anywhere near as good as me. So I wanted an RS Turbo, which is a Ford Escort. You got versions of the Escort in the States. Everyone here should know what an Escort is. A 1.6 litre overhead cam turbocharged engine, and they were amazing. As far as I was concerned, I desperately wanted one. I couldn't afford one. I mean, these things were like going for like, I don't know, £2,500 at a time where I could afford a few hundred £100. So I was sat reading the magazine with my mates, and it was like overshadowed cars, good cars that were overshadowed, and in there was this article about the XR4x4, the 2.9 litre version. I thought, oh, I'd love that V6, 2.9 litre V6 forward with that, that'd be so cool. Anyway, I happened to find one, paid £850 for it. I did trade a car in against it, so I didn't pay full £850 because I couldn't have afforded it. Traded my current car in against it, and I loved it. It was brilliant. It was as fast as an RS Turbo, but it handled better. It was cheaper on insurance. It was cheaper to buy, and I fell in love with it. And then I found out a company called Turbo Technics built a twin turbo conversion for it. And although this is going down memory lane, you will see how this sort of links in a little bit to the whole skills thing. So Turbo Technics built, back in the 80s and early 90s, built a twin turbo kit. It wasn't one you went and bought off the shelf. You didn't go and buy the bits and fit it. You went to the Ford dealership and said, I want that XR4x4. The one I had at the time was a 90 spec, which is a facelifted, uprated version of the Mark II. Came out in 1990. And that car at the time cost £18,000. I mean, this is in 1990. That was a lot of money, an awful lot of money. And then you could pay extra. So instead of the car coming from Ford to the dealership to you, it'd go from Ford to Turbo Technics. They would do a conversion on it, or sometimes certain dealers would do the conversion actually before you got it, and then it'd be delivered to you, and it still had a Ford warranty on it. Now they did various versions of these turbo conversions. They did a 225 horsepower version, a 250, a 280 brake, and they did a very small number of 323 brake ones. It was basically the Minka. The top one was called a Minka. The K1 came with this Larry body kit, uprated wheels, uprated suspension, uprated everything, uprated interior, electric Recaros, all that sort of thing. They only made a couple of them, and then they brought out the 323, which was all of the stuff apart, but it didn't have the interior and the bodywork, so it was not quite so expensive. And they I think they probably made 6 or 7 Minkas in total. Anyway, I wanted one of those. I wanted a twin turbo. Oh, who doesn't want 2 turbos on a V6 engine? That's basically what I was thinking. I was hunting about for the bits, and I found a guy who had the kit for one of these engines. although it was really off a Granada, which is a slightly bigger version of the Sierra. So it wasn't exactly the same, but the turbos were the same, engine was the same, manifolds were the same. The modifications to the fuel injection system you had to make was all the same. It was just some of the pipework lengths were different, and the intercooler was a different shape. So I bought this kit off this guy, paid nearly as much as I paid for the car. Then I found out the turbos were shot, so I sent the turbos to Zero's Technics to get them rebuilt. A couple of things were shot on them, so I bought some bits and pieces. And one day, I've got the car parked up, I get all the bits out of the garage, I'm laying them out on the floor in front of the car to try and make sure I've got all the parts. Now, the guy, this might get noisy, there's a combine coming past, I think. Oh, let's just come in the yard over here. The next door neighbour's, what was he, son-in-law at the time, they're no longer my next door neighbours, and he's no longer their son-in-law. He had worked as a mechanic. He'd actually worked with my dad, and they didn't get on very well. But he looked over the fence, or over from their drive to our drive. So, what are you doing? So, I'm looking to see if I've got all the bits for this. So, what is it? It's a twin turbo conversion for the Sierra. He went, all right, you'll never get that to work too thick. And I went, oh. Well, my plan was, once I had all the bits, was to send the car with a bootload of parts to a mechanic to fit them, because I didn't think I could do it. I thought it was too thick. I didn't have the skills, and I wasn't a mechanic. And I went, right, well, I'm going to prove you, mate. I'm going to show you. And I got in the car, I put all the stuff away, got in the car, and I drove to Halfords, which is 12 miles away from me. Halfords is, if you're not in the UK, is an auto parts store. It's supposed to be an auto parts store. These days they sell stickers, stereos, car wash, push bikes, baby seats, automotive sort of things, but and you can get parts through them, but I just wouldn't bother these days. But they do sell tools, and they sell a decent range of tools. They're decent quality. If you buy the Pro range, I think it's called Advanced now, but they were one of the first companies, other than Snap-on, to do lifetime warranty, and they were reasonably priced. So anyway, went there, bought a couple of sets of spanners, bought a set of sockets. Well, I'm going to show him. It took me months. The car, I ended up buying a cheap runaround. The car was in the garage for months, and it was a proper labour of love. And one day I got in it, turned the key, wouldn't start. I haven't got the timing right, because it's distributor timing. Got me mum to come out and sit and crank it while I messed about with the thing. Put the Dizzy in 180 degrees out. We sorted that out, it fired up, it ran. This car ran. I've had it in pieces, I've had the heads off it, I've changed the heads. I put turbos on it, I've changed the wiring, I've wired bits up. So, right, okay, take it off. Got an MOT on it, drove it around. It was quicker than it was before. It wasn't perfect, but it worked. It worked, and I drove it for ages. And rust got to it like it does to other Fords. So in the end, it went off to somebody who took it apart for the parts and sold the parts on. But the whole thing is, I felt I had no skills, and I had no experience. And off the back of doing that, I decided I wanted to be a mechanic. And 20 years later, I've been a successful mechanic for 20 years. I've been a mechanic that people have come to, other mechanics have come to ask for help and advice on some really interesting big bits of kit. A lot of what I've done has been on military vehicles. So I would love to put a load of pictures in here of the kit I've worked on. I've got pictures of me working on the stuff, but because it's military, I probably shouldn't. But I've worked on protected patrol vehicles, I've worked on forklifts, telehandlers, diggers, bulldozers, graders, off-road container lifts, mobile cranes. I've worked on remote control mine clearing and detection equipment. I've I've worked on all sorts, like doing the military kit and the plant equipment. I've worked on chainsaws, I've worked on strimmers, I've worked on quad bikes, worked on little water pumps. Then I didn't want to do that anymore. I went working for a company, and if you're if you're watching these videos, you probably know Rolls-Royce Merlin engines and Griffin engines, and Pratt & Whitney twin wasps. I've built magnetos for them. I've overhauled constant speed units for the props. I've done the feathering valves for those, and that's not that's quite in depth. I've worked in research and design as a technician on electric car project, which included a bit of machining, assembly, disassembling other people's components. I've got involved in designing electrical schematics for test equipment and fixed plant for test equipment, and the things I've designed, I've then gone on and built and installed, and they've been signed off, and in fact, now one of the systems I designed and built is still in use a few years down the line. I know one of the guys who uses it, and it's a safety shutdown system for a load of lithium battery testing in a facility. So I've done all these things because this guy told me I couldn't fit turbos to my car, and I've got a massive range of skills and I'm good at my job. But that first project, that's where I started learning. I learn every day. I still pull things apart on some of these mowers, and it's like, you haven't seen that before. So get out there and try it. Get yourself some tools if you haven't got any. If you're worried about what skills you need, learn them. It's better now. YouTube and the internet makes it so much so much easier. The other thing is, if you get stuck or you're not sure, ask. Put a comment on one of my videos. I might not know the answer, but I might be able to point in the direction of the answer. Join Facebook groups, email people, join clubs, chat to your mates down the pub, they might know. Like, it's just get out there and try it. Like, forget about whether you've got the skills. Get out there, do it, learn the skills. It's enjoyable, and it might turn into a change of career, which it did for me. Anyway, although this has been talking about me, my experiences, I hope this is useful, and I hope if this makes one person think I can have a go at that, I'm going to try, then this whole video is worth it, because I didn't have that. I never had anyone say that to me. They told me I couldn't do it, and I decided to prove them wrong. But you probably can do it. And don't worry about your age, your education, don't worry about your gender. Just, if you want to do it, have a go. If you're unsure about being able to do it, get out there. There are people that will let you get involved and help, or they will come and help you, or talk you through things over the internet, or anything like that. Just go for it. Before I keep going on and repeating the same thing over and over too much, I will say thank you very much for watching this video. If you've enjoyed it, please click like. Please subscribe if you haven't already. And again, just love to chat to people in the comments. I don't get a huge lot of comments, but I do enjoy having ones that I can engage with. So hopefully we'll hear from you soon, and we will see you again in the next video, which hopefully won't be too long. Thanks a lot. Cheerio and toodle pip. Bugger, can't stop it. Oh, my thumb's on it.